but you know the whole. He walked after him into the toilet. And so all the other Chachomim said to Ben Azai, you know, Ad matai אתה מעז פונך בתלמידי Chachomim? How dare you do such a thing, you know? And he said, Man yaseh, he said, Torah hu, v'lu moed ani tzarich. He said, if whatever Rabbi Akiva does is Torah, and I got to learn. So if I got to go into the Torah, I have to go into the... That's what he said. Yeah, the Ben Azai. So that's Rabbi Shimon Ben Azai. But he said about himself, all the Chachmei Yisrael, like Gabi, Klippas Hashum, they're like the skin of the garlic, like garlic, and they're nothing like that. Yeah. When it came to Rabbi Akiva, he watched his every move. Yes, and that's the way to do it. By the way, so anyway, what happened is that the Rizal said, however, when I say Kriyat Shema, and I, we're in the middle of Shacharis, after Birchas Avos, he said, I'm into a certain yichud, what that is a yichud noira, that the world is not able to really be makabel that yichud. He said, only I can. He said, and you watched me at that time. So he said, that's why you get a pain in the eyes, that you're not able to, you can't take that, you follow? And therefore he said, the pain doesn't go away, and it doesn't seem to have any medical answer to it, because you are watching me at that moment when I'm into this year. And so when he heard that, the Rabbeinu Chaim told, so the Arizal said the only answer is that you must stop watching me at that moment. And he said, after that, I don't mind if you take over again, but during Christmas, you mustn't. So the Rabbeinu Chaim very, had to call reluctantly, he decided to obey what his teacher said. And Baruch Hashem, his eyes got better. He had no longer any trouble. Yeah, but that's the first story. So the second story is, you people probably know that the Arizal and the Beis Yosef were contemporary. They were at the same time. The author of the Shulchan Aruch, the Rabbi Yosef Karo. So he was older than the Arizal. He was older, much older. He had a granddaughter, and his granddaughter, she married the Arizal's son. The Arizal had a son, and his name was Moshe also. Yeah, and he also was not Marek Yomim, unfortunately, but more than his father. And he married Beis Yosef's granddaughter. Yeah, granddaughter. So there was a Sudas Erusin. They had a vote. In those days it was probably a Tanoim, but they had a Suda. And the Beis Yosef asked the Arizal. By the way, the Beis Yosef also was Isaac in Kabbalah. They were all into it at that time. As it's one on the famous book that he wrote from the angel that he had that used to visit him. The Beis Yosef had an angel that used to visit him and tell him Pirushim in the Torah, what they're saying, Lamaila. Yeah. So many of those Pirushim are Derech HaSod. And that sefer is called Magid Meishorim, it's called. And the Beis Yosef wrote down, I don't know if everything, but a large portion of what he heard from this angel. Yeah. And I have the sefer, you can get it, I don't know, nowadays you can get it. But I had an old copy. And when I came to Tzvaz, they gave out not just when I came, but shortly after I arrived, they gave out a very new volume with all sorts of Mari McCombs. So of course I helped it, and so I have that Sefer, and that's full of Kabbalah. That's in Yonim B'derech HaSod, So the Bishop, so he asked the Arizal to say something at the Tanoim, had to go to the writing of the conditions at the Suda. So the Rizal said, "Oh, Drush, up here, Kabbalah, at the Suda's Tanoim." So, while he's speaking, eyes are beginning to jolt out on stalks from different people. They've never, experienced this type of thing before, including the Beis Yosef. So when it was all completed, the Beis Yosef left with his Rebbetzin, and they went home. I don't know if they went together, but they went home. So the Beis Yosef said to his Rebbetzin that that sort of Torah is mamish Torah min hashamayim. He's never heard anything quite like that, and he said he's very worried. So his wife said, "Well, you should be happy. What are you worried about?" So he said he's worried that the generation. So we see our two foundation members are both making what they call roll-ins. So the Beis Yosef says that he's worried that the generation won't be able to be soivel, won't be able to put up with this unbelievable kedusha. So everybody's eyes jump out on stalks when they hear that, because this is one of the highest generations that's ever been in Jewish history. I mean, there were 250 Rabbonim that the Beis Yosef wanted to choose from them and make a Sanhedrin. He wanted to be Mechadis, the Beis Yosef himself. He wanted to be Mechadis the Sanhedrin. But Kabbalah, Ish Mipi, from Moshe Rabbeinu, what here in Tzfaz, the Kedusha was, Avu Bikain, he said that he doesn't think that the generation will be able to take their Arizal. And Rahman Islam, that's what happened. Shortly after, the Arizal left the world. He wasn't able to. And you know the whole thing, the whole story, that the Talmudim asked him to give a pirush from the Zohar, but they didn't understand. And the Rizal said he has no reshut, min hashamayim. He personally can't give them that, because it's a tremendous sword, and the min hashamayim, they don't allow you to give that over. So the Talmudim all started, carrying on, and they said, "How is this? The Rav always teaches us, how come you refuse us?" So they put a big pressure on the Arizal that he should teach them. So the Arizal said he's prepared to take the chance and give it over, but they were just moving into a new shikun. It was like a shikun Chabad, It was a shikun Arizal. All the Talmidim and everybody of the Arizal had found a couple of buildings or a series of buildings that would be like they would all be centered together, and they'd be able to learn together and discuss the Torah, the Arizal, and they would be closer to him because he would also live in that area, and they'd be able to sort of, it was like a very amazing Shikun Chabad, So the Arizal said that that's a wonderful thing, but he said only if there will be absolute akdas. But if there will be any pirud, chas v'sholem, pirud lavovis, or anything which is not mamish akdas, it can be very damaging, because he's going to reveal to them this secret from the Zohar. So he did. He told them. He told them what was the pshat. And for a few days everything was all right. I called Hayab and said to Gamor, but afterwards they broke out in this. You know, sometimes women get a little bit. Two ladies or whatever, they got upset with one another, and they started giving teichachas musa, not in the proper way, you know, the real way it should be. And the husbands got for a moment involved, you know, and one of the husbands said a sharp word to the other, to his comrade, to his own colleague. So the night after that, the Arizo came into the shul and everybody saw that there was something wrong. Well, they saw that it wasn't the same matzah. Yeah, and a few days afterwards he started. Mamish, just a few days. Yeah. And the Arizo left the world. So I asked the question, what is the inner for actors? Why was that so important to the Arizal and to his teaching? You follow? What was the inhibitor there? And notice that the story we told at the beginning, you might say, well, we forget from the beginning there, but the story I told at the beginning was about Kriyat Shema, when he was saying, this actors, this immediate actors, Shevakol Oilamas, and he said, don't look at me when I'm doing this. Yeah, so we see that there's a whole inyan of actors connected with the Rizal. You follow? So that needs an explanation. Why should that be? And that goes back to our question of Teichachas Musa, you know. So it isn't, you think, very easy to be a Talmud of the Arizal, you know. These guys, the Arizal taught them things, but he expected of them what we might almost call the impossible. They had to overlook. Yeah, there's an old saying, you know, by the Chassidim, that I think the Friedrich Rabbi hinted at it, and he said that to want to be a Rebbe is a rotten. Ultimately, it's a ratzon. But he said to have that ratzon, you've got to forgive all the other ratzonis in the world. Every other will in the world, you've got to forget, and then you can maybe come to that world. So to learn Kabbalah, well, that's what all the Sforim say. You can't learn Kabbalah until you're this, until you're that, until you're some. You know, it's almost like a long list of requirements. What's this? Elamai, it's not so easy. You've got to have Teichachas Musa. You've got to go through, if you want to have the divine light, the Derech Chayim, and you have to have a lot of Teichachas Musa. So what's the whole link up? What's the whole clip of all these inyanim together? So I just want to give over to you a certain inyan. It's written when the Avesta came down on the Har Sinai at Mount Terah. It's written, V'Har Sinai Ashan Kuloi. The mountain was all smoke. That's what it means in simple terms. It was all smoke. Why was it all smoke? Because Hashem had come down by Eish Eloki. The Avesta's Eish came down on the mountain, and therefore the mountain just gave off a lot of smoke. So comes along certain great Kabbalists for him, quoted him, and they say, the Avesta's Eish gives off smoke, has to give off smoke, Hashem's Eish is a divine Eish, and Lamash on them is Be'er, when it burnt the Korbanos, it brought that the Eish, the smoke that would go up, was not from the divine fire, but that was from the simple fire that the Kohanim. Yeah. So the Eber's fire wasn't. So it comes along Siddur, and it brings from a very basic thing, Sifrei HaKabbalah, and it says the word Ashan is 3 letters. Ayin, Shin, Nun. Oshan. Yeah? And that makes Rosh Hashanah Oilam, Shona, Nefesh. Oilam, Shona, Nefesh. So what is the significance of these 3 letters, Oilam, Shona, and Nefesh? Oilam is the chitonius of the Oilam. Yeah, the actual adequate chitonius and the Nivroim as they are in their chitonius and their gufs. Even the Malachim have gufs, you know. Each Oilam according to its level. Well, it's a simple, what you might call material, as it were, aspect of that Oilam. And then Nefesh, which is the 3rd one, well, that's the Chayas Eloki, which is Machaya. And not only just like the divine influence and the divine light which enters every niva, you might call it Mamalik Kolam. Sometimes it's written in Siddur that it's also Koilo Seva, because Koilo, the whole divine influence in the, what's in the middle is Shin. Shin is Shona. That's time. It's written that time is like a link between the physical aspect, as it were, the simple aspect, and divinity, which is, divinity is not measurable in time, for sure not in place. So how do you get from divine down into a physical or a material or a lower aspect, which is called Olam? So you have in the middle time, and time is like a sort of a mamota. I'm not going into all the reasons why, but that's what it's like. And therefore time, according to Chassidus, where does time come from? Yeah, the Maggid says that time is a nivra. It's also a created thing, time. Where does it come from? So he says it's from Rotoi Vashoyev. You have the Keli, and the oil wants to come down into the Keli, but it also wants to go back, so it keeps going back, but then it all of a sudden realizes it's going to come down. So it's written that there's like a certain space, like a moment, which is called a second. It's like a passage of time, that it goes up and then it decides to come back. Well, that leads to a pause, you know. That pause is the beginning of time. You know? And that's Shona, that's time. And that causes a linkage between the Elokus, which is the Nefesh, and the Olam.
Sorry, so you're saying like the passage of time is the run and return?
What's he saying?
Oh, okay. So like the run and return is the passage of time, like every second. Oh.
That's where time comes from.
He was just asking to clarify.
It's a Rasa V'Shu.
It's all, they explain.
Good. Okay, so what I want to suggest to you is that the Eberster makes it that there's like a central point in each of those 3 levels where it's mamish, the nefesh comes down and appears mamish b'goloi v'zeh. Not because the Eberster is running the whole world, and but do you see it? Are you aware of it? If you think of it and you get taught, then maybe you think about it. Or you're not really aware of it. You don't really see Elokus. So what I want to say is that every now and then, or every point, there's like a point inside Olam where Elokus is mamish there by Galui. You follow? And it comes out of its Helam, and its mamish there by Galui. And that's what they call the Beis HaMikdash. You ever heard of the Beis HaMikdash? Yeah. So what Chassidus says is that in the Beis HaMikdash was Gilui Atzmas Ein Tov. You ever heard of that? Yeah, all sorts of great early commentators, they want to say, yeah, it was only this form of Gilui, was this form of Gilui, was this or something. Chassidus says, forget it, the Eibishter v'shochanti b'soichom. I will dwell there. Who's talking? The very essence of the Eibishter. So you have, and the Sefer Chinuch comes along in Mitzvah Tzadik Hey, it's 195 of his mitzvahs, and the Sefer Chinuch says that the Yerushalayim is like in the middle of the whole world. So if you don't believe him, the Alter Rebbe says the same thing, without quoting the Sefer Chinuch. In last week's Sedra, in Pasha Masay, in one of the Drusim, the Alter Rebbe writes that the Yerushalayim is at the center of the whole Yeshua, of the world. And why? He said, because that's the point in the whole world where the Eibus is mamish b'galui. If you want to have any shaylas to the Eibus, you are makabel from that gilui in the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore the Medrash says that if the Romans, Yemak Shamon, would have only realized what the Beis HaMikdash is doing for them, they would never have destroyed it. They would have sent all their legions to surround it, to guard it, that nobody should ever touch it. Weißt du? It's a Medrash, Mefurish Medrash. From which, because they are makabel, the Beis HaMikdash gave them unbelievable things that they didn't realize. You follow? And the whole world is different once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Rachmanim Klan. And I can't go into that, but the Alter Rebbe writes in Mefurish, and look at that, that the whole world is not the same world once the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. Because you took away the point, so what are we going to do? We don't have any point where the Elakusa Begoli inside the simple word. What it can do, it took away the Beis HaMikdash. What's going to happen? So if you're a good Chabadnik, what is the answer?
770.
Oh. So what I want to tell you, to help us understand that is basically a pretty correct answer. You know, you ever heard of the Be'er Mayim Chaim? You heard of the Be'er Mayim Chaim? He's buried down here in the Beis HaChaim, not far from the Beis Yosef, near the Beis Yosef, the Be'er Mayim Chaim. He was an amazing guy, and he was at the time of the Baal Shem Tov. Whether he was actually a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov is not clear, but he was like a Talmud from those who were Talmudi of Baal Shem Tov. He knew the Reb Mechele Zlatishev and other people. They had to call him the Be'er Mayim Chaim. Yeah.
Talmud.
Yeah. He was from the Reb Mechele Zlatishev. Yeah. So the Be'er Mayim Chaim, he had a shul, he had a shtibel. And he used to teach Torah, and he used to daven in the shtibel. The Nazis, there was a place called Chernovitz, and he was the Rav also in Chernovitz. He was like the Rav in charge of Chernovitz. The Nazis got into Chernovitz, and they just destroyed everything. They poured it down to dust and ashes, Rachmanim, killing off thousands of Yidden also, Rachmanim. It was a very big Jewish center. And all the shuls and everything, they just razed to the ground. In the middle of Chernovitz, Adayom Hazeh, there stands the shtibel of the Be'er Mayim Chaim. Yeah. And the shtibel of the Be'er Mayim Chaim, nobody knows, either they didn't see it, or they tried and it didn't work. Nobody knows to this day what happened, but they didn't destroy it. It's still standing in the midst of all the unbelievable ruin. Yeah. The Stibur Deber Maim Chai. Yeah. And in the same area was also, you guys heard of the Chumash Heichal HaBrocha, the Komana. He was a big, he was a Talmud of the Ateret Tzvi. The Ateret Tzvi was his uncle. And he wrote a pirush on it, and they were Mekubolim, unbelievable Mekubolim, but they considered themselves as the Hemshech Hamidi of the Baal Shem Tov, because they said the Baal Shem Tov wanted everybody to know Kabbalah, intimately, and so therefore they gave. Anyway, whatever, that's part, but he was an unbelievable, his stibur also, yeah, Mamish in the midst of absolute ruins, his stibur was not destroyed, yeah. So, what does that mean? Because you can't destroy Elokus. You can't destroy Elokus. Over that was in Oilom. That was where Elokus is Bekola, you follow me? And that's, as it were, the etzem of Nefesh, how it is in Oilom. You follow? That's the killer of Oilom. So what I want to suggest, and I think probably everybody is prepared to agree with me, that it's the same with 770. 770 is the nefesh of the whole world, as it is prior to the Binyan Beis Hamikdash. You follow? Koloi, that we don't actually have the Beis Hamikdash Bapoyo, then we have, and perhaps it's correct to say that maybe there are one or two other spots in the world which are like, assistants to 770. Well, they have a similar inya. Well, they ain't kind of mohem laharik, but as it were, the Ika Indian is let's say 770. So that's Nefesh, how it comes down into Oilam. In Zman, let's take a day like Yom Kippur, Zman. Yom Kippur is part of the Zman. Shabbat. All of a sudden it's Shabbat. Yeah. All of a sudden everybody's different. The whole world goes up. It's put down the Kisvei Arizal. Yeah. All the elements go up, and it all just happens. And you know what the Rogatchover said? He said that the whole 24 hours of Shabbos is a different Zman. It's not the same Zman. It's L'mayla Zman, but it's in Zman. Yeah, that's what the Rogatchover said about Shabbos. And that's why it is on Shabbos, things are different, So you might say, well, yes, some of these Chabad guys, L'mayla Zman, they don't go home on Shabbos to their family. Anyway, whatever. L'mayla Zman, take Yom Kippur, the whole earth sort of stops, and everybody's going to a shul or coming from a shul or thinking of some holy thought or something. I'm sure even these really weirdos, on Yom Kippur they think something better, Something else. Yeah, in other words, that's a gilei, the nefesh inside the Zman. That's what it. Therefore, what's going to be with nefesh inside nefesh? What's going to be with nefesh inside nefesh itself? So, what I want to tell you about that is that the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya in Shara Yichud in Perek Hay that he said, how do you get Gilei Elokus in the world? He says, Alidei HaTzadikim Validei Oises Umoisim Shebeter in Perek Hay. You look it up. He said through the Tzadikim and through Oises Umoisim Shebeter, through all the Nisim that were written in the Torah, they bring about the Gilei Elokus. in the world. Oh, but that's not stam gilui elikus. Das is gilui of etzem elikus, nefesh, inside time and chitzonius oilam, plate, let's go. And that's the Eibishter puts a nefesh, that's his real nefesh, he puts him down